Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Richard and welcome back to a stock market outlook video sponsored by MarketSmith. And this week we basically had 5 very strong days with great closing ranges. Monday was a little bit of an expectation breaker. We did have a retest of this pivot right here as well on the SPX, which we'll get to in just a second. We had a retest of the 50-day moving average, but everything really passed with flying colors. We had a strong reaction from this pivot point and a great close to the week right here, fishing right at all-time highs through this pivot as well. Now this day was an expectation breaker because last week we were seeing some pickup in distribution and a lot of growth stocks, including NVIDIA, especially pulled back very hard, and NVIDIA pulled back on higher than average volume. So really my expectation going into this week is that we're going to continue downwards and hopefully rally off this pivot as we did. But I was ready for really what any scenario could happen, including an undercut of the 50-day moving average. However, on Monday, after many oops reversals in growth stock leaders, we rallied strongly basically throughout the week and saw a lot of continued breakouts into all-time highs. And on Friday, if we go over to Snap real quick, this is a very bullish sign here, a strong earnings gap up on large volume with a great closing range as well. And this earnings gap up is very promising for the health of the overall market. And we also saw other breakouts from growth stock leaders like DocuSign as well as Roku on this Friday, breaking out of a stage 1 cup with handles. So things are acting well. We may be a little bit short-term extended at this moment, but we'll have to see how things back and fill and whether we continue to get support and continue upwards into all-time highs on many of these growth stock leaders. So moving on to the S&P 500, let's bring that chart up as well. Once again, this week we had a retest of the 50-day moving average, but we held it strongly. And Tuesday we had a fall through to the upside with a 2-2 reversal and basically a finish at all-time highs to end out the week. So overall, both of the major indexes, both the S&P 500 as well as the NASDAQ composite, finished right at all-time highs, very bullish, and continue to trend nicely above these key moving averages. Looking at the IWM, the kind of small cap Russell 2000 ETF, this is still near the bottom of the base and hasn't made a definitive move upwards. And once again, this is a little bit weaker than the larger cap dominated S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100. So we'll see if this can follow through and push through the 21 EMA and 50 SMA, which at this point look like they're resistance. So this would be very constructive if we can finally move up here and then maybe some back and fill above the moving averages, change the character a little bit, and then challenge all-time highs. That would be ideal. Looking at the IWO as well, this is also a little bit weaker, the Russell 2000 Growth Index, and we're just below the 50 SMA, it looks like, and right at those key moving averages and the 300 level. So once again, next week, it would be very constructive to see a push up here and make sure that breadth increases a little bit. And it's not just the large caps moving all the indexes up. We want to see some support basically from the smaller cap names as well. So in this video, as always, we'll run through the major indexes. Then we'll talk about potential leadership. We'll talk about how my focus list fared last week. And we'll move on to segment, the IBD Big Picture article, and finally the GMI signal from richardlmoglen.com. And if at any time you do enjoy my analysis, please go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And let's dive right in and start with the potential leadership at this moment. So running through the charts, AMEH was a very strong performer this week. This has been a very strong stock, forming a high tight flag setup going into this week. Then we had a little bit of a move up, oops reversal on this Monday, then fall through to the upside and 2-2 reversal, as well as a DTL break, which could have been actionable as well. And from that point on, it just took off and broke out of this high tight flag setup. So very strong stock, definitely short-term extended, but acting really, really well. And this trend is really something, basically never even breaking the 10-day simple moving average for more than 1 or 2 days at a time. Moving on, we've got ASAN, which also had a nice oops reversal on Monday. I'll be saying that a lot during this video. And from that point, it rallied strongly towards all-time highs and a nice consolidation inside day on this Friday. So we'll see what happens. Will this confirm to the upside or the downside from this inside day to end off the week? Moving on, we've got Bill, which also had a strong rally off this cup with handle setup here. Nice action on this Monday, a bullish outside day, and then very strong every single day this week. BNTX continues to move up on huge volume, really showing something special here. And really this is actionable right here at the DTL, as well as when it moved through the 21 EMA and 10-day simple off the 50-day moving average. CMG Chipotle, nice move up from this longer term base, and fall through action on Thursday and Friday looks pretty strong. Great volume coming in as well. Crocs also with an earnings gap up here, nice closing range, and then an inside day to end out the week on Friday. And we'll see if this forms out a kind of base here and pulls back gently, or if it just rockets higher through this high. Moving on, we've got Crowd, which had a nice oops reversal here, as well as a pullback confluence towards this prior pivot, and then a nice move upwards and strong end to the week right near all-time highs, but it did get knocked down a little bit to end out the week and didn't quite close right above these levels, I don't believe. Dash, also a nice oops reversal, as well as bullish outside day on Monday. A great fall through as well, back above all the moving averages and into not quite all-time highs. It still has a ways to go, but breaking above this important pivot right here. Moving on, we've got D-Dog, a nice oops reversal and move up to end out the week, breaking out of this handle at this moment. And this is a stage 1 base. I really like the length of this base as well. It's basically been consolidating since June of 2020. Moving on, we've got a recent IPO. Docs also acting really well. I like the action, the double inside days on this Tuesday as well as Wednesday, then nice move up and 3-bar break to the upside, and then a consolidation day pretty much on this Friday. DocuSign also moving up right to all-time highs after a strong open to the week right here on this Monday, breaking above this high and overall trending nicely. Not the highest volume, so a little bit of a wedging action right here to end of the week. So I'll be watching for a potential pullback to the 10-day simple or this prior pivot that's set all the way back in September of 2020, and that high is at 290.23. So I'll be watching to see if it pulls back gently on below average volume and potentially buying the 2-2 reversal off that level of support. Domo, another one with a oops reversal and almost a bullish outside day. It didn't quite close above this high, but nevertheless a very strong move into all-time highs, both in terms of price and relative strength. Figs, another recent IPO, pulled back pretty much to the pivot. Nice move off that, but having a little bit of trouble with the 50 SMA and 21 EMA. Next up, we've got FRHC, Freedom Holding Corp, and it had a nice move up on this Tuesday and Wednesday, and then pretty much went sideways on Thursday and Friday. Not the highest volume, which I don't like seeing on this move up, but we'll see if this kind of forms out kind of a base on base pattern above this cup. Moving on, we've got Fiverr, which pulled back dramatically last week, but reversed strongly with an oops reversal and bullish outside day on Monday. Then it continued to move up back towards this pivot. And the 230 level is pretty important, as you see back here. It was a level of resistance, and we did manage to close above that level. But here around 250, 255 or so is another level of resistance. GLBE, after a pullback last week, starting with this downside reversal, the failed breakout of the high tight flag, pulled back to the 21 EMA and now had a very strong week breaking through this pivot. This is at 64.5 to end out the week and acting really strong. I would like to see higher volume on the breakout, but we'll see what happens with this stock. GNRC also had a nice oops reversal to start off the week on Monday, moved up and is back above the 10-day simple. mRNA continues to trend really strongly above the 10-day simple, and it is a little bit extended from this moving average, so I wouldn't mind some slight pullbacks, but there's a lot of demand, a lot of volume coming into this stock. MTCH also had a nice reversal after a pretty bad start to the week on this Monday, and basically had an inside day, then a 2-2 reversal to the upside. And this is on higher volume this day right here, but not really the most promising price action. Something about this doesn't look quite right to me. And overall, this is a little bit of a choppier stock, a little difficult to trade. Moving on, we've got Net, and it had a really nice end to the week, finishing right at all-time highs. And this started from the oops reversal, bullish outside day on Monday, as well as the DTL break. And I would like to see a little bit more volume coming in, but this was a pocket pivot on this bullish outside day. Next up, we've got NVIDIA, and this had a nice oops reversal to start the week on Monday, a nice inside day with a good closing range on Tuesday, then a move up, and then pretty much going sideways above the 21 EMA with two pretty good closing ranges to end out the week on Thursday and Friday. Moving on, we've got Olo, another recent IPO, potentially forming out a kind of a secondary base here after its IPO base, and potentially moving up towards the right side and towards all-time highs. Roku, nice action, oops reversal to start off the week on Monday. Nice fall through and 2-2 reversal on this Tuesday, and then the breakout, very strong breakout on Friday, up 12.6% on very large volume. Great to see. And just looking at this base, there are some signs of accumulation, especially this period right here on very high volume. So it's always good to see. Moving on, we've got SE also with an oops reversal off the 50-day SMA, and then a nice move up towards all-time highs, setting out the week. Shop also a very strong move off an oops reversal on Monday. Snap earnings breakout, very strong action, nice closing range as well. SPT oops reversal and move up towards all-time highs. Twilio also an oops reversal and move up towards all-time highs as well. Although it does have a little bit of work to do, it did overcome this area of resistance, and that is around 407. And lastly, we've got Zscaler also had a nice move on Monday. Not quite an oops reversal. It didn't gap down below the prior day's low, but a strong move nevertheless, and a nice move finishing right at all-time highs. So that's a run through of a bunch of charts of potential leadership at this point. A lot of them have very strong moves starting on Monday with constructive action, but many may be short-term extended for the time being. So I wouldn't mind some back and fill, and we'll see how those act as a pullback towards pivots or prior support levels. So moving on, let's talk about my focus list. And I went over the charts of many of these already, but the ones I didn't, we'll go ahead and cover. And overall, a very strong week from this focus list, sorting by that weekly change. You can see that many of them were up over 10%, about half were, and all of them were green on the week, which is a good sign. Now looking at the charts that we haven't covered yet, TMO tried to break out on Tuesday and that failed. Then it had a reversal off the 21 EMA on this Wednesday, then a 2-2 reversal, and then a 3-bar break and breakout to all-time highs on this Friday. So it ended well, but not the greatest action early on in the week. And lastly, we've got Zip, which also had pretty bullish action, although Monday didn't start off great. It had an inside day with a good closing range on Tuesday, and then fall through to the upside to end out the week. So overall, from my focus list, things were pretty good, and that's really because the overall market rallied very strongly from the open. But the thing is, you have to be prepared and be focused on the leaders, and that's really what I hope to do with every single weekly watch list. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow on Sunday when I'll be posting my next list of ideas. And moving on now to sentiment, we can see that we had a large increase from 27.1% bullish to now 49.1% bullish. That is a large increase, but it's normal really given the very strong action that we saw last week from leading stocks and the overall market indexes. And as I mentioned last week, this is very historically low, which could have been a tip-off that we might have a very strong rally this week. But once again, nothing is confirmed until the leaders act well and the market followed through as it did last week. Moving on to the NAAIM exposure index, this had a nice drop from 93.27, quite elevated to now 71.04. It's moving in the right direction. That's exactly what we want to see. Looking at the put call ratio, this had a sharp spike, and now it's back near 0.6 or so, 0.64 to be exact. Looking at the Bollinger Bears poll, this is dipping as well below 60. That's a good sign. So overall, most of the sources of sentiment are actually pulling back, and the sentiment surveys are a little bit high, but still not too extended, in my opinion. Moving on to the IBD Big Picture article, the headline is NASDAQ S&P 500 hit record highs as earnings season heats up, Roku and Snap rally. Reading through to discuss a strong action from Snap and Roku, both of which broke out on Friday. Snap had a huge earnings gap up, and Roku also had a very strong breakout. Moving on, they discuss the strong action from the indexes, the NASDAQ, S&P 500, FFTY, the IBD 50 stock PINS also had a strong showing on this Friday, moving closer to a potential buy point from a double bottom with handle. Moving on, they also discuss the strong action overall this week, but also a few reasons to be a little bit cautious given that the distribution day count is still a little bit elevated at this point, with 6 on the S&P 500 and 4 on the NASDAQ. And given that, once again, the NASDAQ composite as well as the QQQ are a little bit short-term extended historically from their key moving average, the 50-day moving average. But overall, they discuss the breakouts here, Roku, Snap. This is a chart of Snap. Really nice closing range on huge volume. And finally, to discuss how it's earnings season once again. And we've got a bunch of big tech name earnings next week, including Tesla, Google, Amazon, and Apple. So once again, know when your companies are supposed to report and be prepared for whatever happens afterwards. So overall, their current view is that the uptrend resumes, and we have 6 distribution days on the S&P 500, 4 on the NASDAQ, a lot of leaders up in volume, and a few down in volume as well. Finally, we've got the Wishing Wealth GMI signal, which is green since May 26. The GMI score on Friday was a strong 6 out of 6. And at this point, taking everything into account, my current stock market outlook is once again a strong uptrend, but I am being a little bit cautious because we have rallied very strongly the past 5 days. And once again, we're a little bit short-term extended, so I wouldn't mind some back and fill and potential kind of retest entries in some high-performing stocks that had strong breakouts. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks.